Hi YouTube, it's Adult Mochi Fan 87. While I do feel that the 2010s have been a pretty bad decade overall, we did still get a lot of good stuff. And one thing that's been really good throughout the 2010s is the cartoons we've gotten. Not all of them are good, obviously, but the good stuff is really good, including Adventure Time, Gravity Falls, The Loud House, and The Amazing World of Gumball. What I like about this show is that it's very creative, it has great humour, versatile characters, and it often experiments with different types of animation. It first appears on our screens in 2011 and it has been going strong ever since. It is currently in its 6th and final season, and I personally am okay with this show ending after 6 seasons. I feel it had a great long run, as did Phineas and Ferb, Regular Show, and Adventure Time. I also hear that a lot of the people behind Gumball are working on a new show called Elliot from Earth. I like what I've heard about it so far, and I'm sure it will also be a great show. And while I am okay with Season 6 being Gumball's last, I do still think it would be nice if it got another season or two. I have heard that the door is open for more seasons of the show in the future, so who knows? Like many popular cartoons, of course Gumball had to spin off into other media, so Boom Studios released a range of comics. These include an 8-issue comic, grab bag specials containing multiple stories, and some graphic novels. Just a few months ago, a new Gumball graphic novel came out called Tunnel Kingdom. And even though prior to this I had not read any previous Gumball comic material, and to be honest I haven't been much of a reader period since the late 90s, I felt I had to pre-order this in the hopes that it would ease the pain inflicted upon me by a certain episode of the show. I read it all the way through, and did this graphic novel ease the pain from that certain episode? Let's find out. The synopsis on the back reads, when Gumball manages to get one of the super rare limited edition Knife Fight Good action figures, he can't believe his luck until his package gets stolen. With the help of Darwin and Anais, Gumball sets off to solve a mystery that spans across all of Elmore and under it. The truth will come to light in this adventure filled with twists and turns every step of the way. As I go through this, I will explain the events of this graphic novel, but make sure I don't go into too much detail so I don't ruin it for you in case you decide to buy your own copy. I will not be showing you any of the pages inside for copyright reasons. If you want to see the pages for yourself, buy your own copy. Okay, here we go. Gumball has ordered himself a special edition action figure of one of his favourite video game characters, Knife Fight Good. He is waiting outside the front door all day and all night for the delivery to arrive. His brother Darwin is waiting alongside with him. Meanwhile, their parents, Richard and Nicole, are engrossed in a fantasy board game called Tunnel Kingdom. The next morning, Gumball receives a text message saying that his delivery has arrived. But all of a sudden, it turns out the mailbox is empty, causing him to believe his package has been stolen. Darwin decides to help Gumball find his missing toy, as he has been reading a series of junior detective novels over the years and has picked up a lot of detective skills in the process. On the first leg of their adventure, Gumball and Darwin bump into Larry Needlemeyer. If you haven't watched Gumball before, or if you haven't already watched enough of it, Larry Needlemeyer works almost every job in town. There's even an episode where he challenges Gumball and Darwin to work all his jobs for the day. Larry had just finished his postal route and is on his way to a shift at Joyful Burger. And after a bit of questioning, Gumball and Darwin decide to return home. When they arrive home, Richard tells Gumball he has a special delivery for him. Gumball hopes it's his toy, but when he opens the box, he finds a really bad knockoff called Knife Fight Goof. Gumball is sure it's not what he ordered, as he ordered from the official Knife Fight Good website. Not only that, but inside the box in which Knife Fight Goof came in, Gumball and Darwin find a rather mysterious address. Darwin, putting all his detective skills to good use, is under the impression that there's a conspiracy. When Anais overhears them, she decides to join in helping them find the missing toy. She takes along her junior science kit. They observe the address they found in the box, and they end up in a rather messy field. They go around the field looking for clues, and in the process they find a piece of glitter which Gumball thinks is from the box his Knife Fight Good toy came in. Upon thinking about the clues they found, they suspect that Larry is the thief. So Larry, being a man of many jobs, they decide to go to the pet store where he's currently working at that time of day. They question him, and he denies having stolen Gumball's toy. After his shift at the pet store is over, Gumball, Darwin and Anais decide to follow Larry to wherever he goes next. And this eventually leads them to a secret underground tunnel. They overhear Larry say the secret password, and as a result, they are able to get in. The secret underground tunnel turns out to be a hangout for public service workers, so they can unwind after a long day of work, trade collectibles, and they're even able to survive an apocalypse as they have a lifetime's worth of non-expiring food. While they are down there, Gumball finds another piece of glitter on the floor, and this eventually causes Larry to reveal that the ruler of this underground lair does have a thing for collectibles, and that the lair was originally designed to give public service workers a place to hang out and stuff. Larry decides to let Gumball, Darwin and Anais see the ruler of the underground lair, but he says it requires ID cards from all his public service jobs. So they go around, and while Larry is looking for them, Gumball, Darwin and Anais disguise themselves as workers in these very same jobs. While disguised as these public service workers, they do all they can to fit in with the other workers, breaking the ice with common workplace banter and all that. Eventually, Larry finds all his ID cards for all these jobs, and they do, as a result, get to see the ruler of the underground lair, who indeed has lots of collectibles. In the process, Gumball finds his Knife Fight Good figure. They all go home, all's well and ends well. This comic rocks. The story is well structured. The secret underground hangout for public service workers is well imagined. The artwork is good. And although the detective stuff is a bit cliche, I think it uses the premise very well. If you want to buy a copy of this yourself, it's available on Amazon. And if you cannot find a copy at your local Waterstones, you can order it from their website as well. Now, before I go, I feel I really need to discuss this. Even though I have not been much of a reader since the late 90s, I really did feel I had to get a copy of this Gumball graphic novel in the hopes that it would ease the pain inflicted upon me by a certain episode of the show. The puppets. Okay, we all have those storytelling tropes that we don't like. For some, it's the dead parents. For some, it's the twist villain. For some, it's the pointless comic relief. For some, it's lying to be popular. But for me, it's characters letting go of their childhoods. I want to be able to hang on to my childhood. Maybe not all of it, but a lot of it. I don't like being told, you are too old for this. Whether or not something is too childish for me to still enjoy as an adult should be down to me. While I do still think The Puppets is a clever episode, its puppet segment is great, The Fun Will Never End is a great song, and overall the episode is a good spin on the evil toy plot, what ruins it for me is Gumball at the beginning of the episode bullying Darwin into allowing their old toys to be flogged at the upcoming yard sale. I know these old toys were stored away in the loft 7 years ago, and realistically, in the time since, Gumball and Darwin will have received many more toys over the years. In fact, we've seen a few throughout the series. But at the same time, Gumball should not have been such a bully towards Darwin. What makes it even worse is that Gumball even tells Darwin that they're apparently too old to play with toys and dolls, sounding like he means it full stop. Sure, they are this close to entering their teenage years, but you can still carry stuff from your childhood into your adult years. Even if you don't want to revisit the stuff you enjoyed as a kid during your teenage years, you may want to revisit it by the time you're in your 20s.
Furthermore, this is Gumball Waterson we are talking about here. Someone who earlier that season enjoyed the brief time he was sent back to kindergarten, despite his initial struggle. And let's not forget that Season 3 started with both Gumball and Darwin declaring that they want to enjoy childhood while they still can. I did come up with my own alternate ending to the Puppets episode. You may want to check it out. Link in the description. The giving up on childhood nonsense we were presented by this episode is also the problem I have with Simpsons episode Fat Man and Little Boy. Here, Bart loses his last baby tooth, but instead of finding $1 under his pillow, it turns out the Tooth Fairy donated his last dollar to some cause, because apparently, upon losing his last baby tooth, Bart is not a little boy anymore. Bart tries desperately to still be able to enjoy the things most kids enjoy, but it doesn't work out. This causes Bart to bundle up all his childhood toys and burn them. Keep in mind, The Simpsons has been one of my favourite shows ever since I was little, and over the years I kept watching new episodes and still enjoying it, no matter how bad the seasonal rot got. Even then, I made season 27 my last because at that point I felt the seasonal rot had gotten too much. Prior to the arrival of Fat Man and Little Boy, a season 16 episode, I could actually tolerate the worst episodes of seasons 8 through 15. Yep, at that younger age, I could actually tolerate My Sister, My Sitter, Miracle on Evergreen Terrace, Kill the Alligator and Run, even The Parent Rap. But Fat Man and Little Boy is where I found myself drawing the line. We all need that moment to realise we don't need to enjoy every episode of an otherwise good show. Going back to Gumball, Did the Tunnel Kingdom graphic novel ease the pain inflicted upon me by the Puppets episode of the show? It has, but maybe not completely. While this episode is still guilty of the crime it committed, this graphic novel has given me some hope that Gumball and Darwin are still enjoying their childhoods to the right extent. Let's not forget that cartoons don't always manage to maintain continuity. Furthermore, when cartoons spin off into other media, such as books and video games, it can be debatable whether or not this spin-off media is canon with the shows. Well, Gumball has certainly become a case where I hope the comics are canon with the show. If it will make y'all feel better, even though my problem with these two episodes of these two shows is also present in the Puppy Dog Pals episode Designer Dog, I was still able to enjoy this episode of this show. I don't know, maybe it's because the way they showed Bob was giving away his childhood toys was nowhere near as painful as the other two examples, and maybe it's because Bingo and Rolly did, like they do in every other episode, go on a fun adventure, and also considering this is a show intended for younger children, I'm sure some of the younger children this show is intended for are going to be like, "Hey, that's how I got some of my toys!" And Bob's justification for giving away his cuddly dog from childhood: he has real dogs, Bingo and Rolly, for pets now. I consider it to be a nice bonus that in the later episode, Bob Loves Mona, Bob is still seen to have some other toys.
Of all the toys I had as a preteen, the only ones I still have today are my cuddlies of Sonic, Tails, and Yoshi, as well as my sooty hand puppet, and in the way of action figures, just Bugs Bunny from the Space Jam toy line. While Sooty and Bugs just so happens to be the two lucky survivors of the many toy purges from throughout my childhood and teenage years, I'm still really happy to have them today either way. Sonic, Tails and Yoshi I always wanted to hang on to due to them being among my favourite video game characters. We've all had those moments in our childhoods where we decide we don't want certain toys anymore, so they're either stored in the loft, sold, or given away to families who don't have as much, even after our parents decide that it's time some other kids got the chance to play with them. My parents would usually give toys me and Stroke or my brother were done with to families who didn't have as much.
Throughout me and my brother's childhood, we did have a very respectable assortment of toys. This isn't our entire collection, and this isn't even photos of our actual collection. This is just a small assortment of what we had, and pictures I got off the web. While I do think it would be nice if I did still have some of these, I am at the same time grateful that it did all go to families who didn't have as much, and I'm sure they enjoyed it all just as much as me and my brother did.
Even then, you shouldn't be forced to let go of your childhood. Whether or not you hold on to your childhood is your decision. Even if you might not want to revisit it as a teenager, chances are you may want to revisit it sometime after you enter your 20s. Embracing the kid at heart lifestyle may take a bit of willpower, but what you get out of it as a result is worth it. Even if you don't have your childhood toys anymore, chances are, if you look in the right places, you can get replacements. Again, this is if you want to.
Maybe I'll take the Blue Peter approach to getting myself another Tracy Island.
Come out, and I've opened the front up so that Thunderbird 2 can go straight the way through it, and I've pushed it right to the back of the island, and mine sort of is cut at an angle at the back because that's the way it fits. Yours might be entirely different. I'm going to put some sticky tape on that to stick that down, and then I might have done this at school. I did it at school and loved every minute of it, basically because you can get nice and messy. But you get a flour and water paste. Flour and water paste is easy to make. You put some water into a bowl and you just keep adding flour till you get a gungy look like this. And then you get bits of newspaper, scrunch them up, put lots of the flour and water onto your base, and then put the scrunched newspaper over the top of that. Loads more flour and water paste over. Very patient watching it. Now, I've got it to look quite smooth on the top, if you can just see that. And the reason I've got it to look like that is because I got lots of little pieces of square paper like that, and I flour pasted them all onto the top of the scrunchy bits of paper, and it just gives it a smoother, far more professional finish, like that. All the rocks with matte emulsion, you'll probably find that you'll need a couple of coats. I'm just going to paint this corner here. The control tower. We need to put some windows in so everybody can see out. Now, the easiest way to do that, I think, is to get these little sticky things. Now, they're little sticky shapes. I've coloured mine with a black felt tip pen. Pop that in there. And the swimming pool. Well, the swimming pool is very easy. But we know, of course, it's not just a swimming pool. There's something else about the swimming pool. It's actually the secret opening to one of the rocket sites. Now, the first piece of card cut out to fit round the swimming pool.
Even after my childhood ended, I could never get into adult programming. For the very most part, my main choice of what to watch on TV continued to be cartoons intended for children aged 6 to 12. Even in the supposed cartoon dark age of the 2000s, I found some hidden gems here and there, and it means a lot to me to see a lot of today's kid-targeted cartoons loved by adults. Yeah, I do like a good few adult cartoons like Rick and Morty and BoJack Horseman, but don't ever expect me to watch any of those gripping dramas on Sky Atlantic, for example. Cartoons intended for children will always be what I watch 95% of the time.
We are all entitled to our own choices of hobbies, no matter how old we are.
If you'd rather watch TV shows intended for younger viewers, go ahead, watch what you want. If you enjoyed playing with Lego when you were a kid, you can still enjoy playing with it as an adult. If trains were more your thing as a kid, you can still play with them as an adult. You may want an electric, Hornby or Bachmann layout, but you can play with Tomy or Brio if you prefer. The choice is yours. There is a reason why those Hornby ads in the mid-90s showed us two kids telling us about sets they got for birthday and Christmas before cutting to a grown man telling us he got serious. I admire the many toy reviewers there are on YouTube, either reminding us of what we used to play with as kids, or showing us what today's kids are playing with. One YouTube channel I particularly enjoy is Down from the Attic, where this guy Luke shows us assorted childhood memories. Most episodes so far cover board games, but he has done a good few showing us his toys and comics. I consider his Crash Dummies, Tomy Train and Beano videos to be among his best work. Another YouTuber I admire is James A. Williams. He has done an excellent job showing us why he still likes to watch a lot of the shows he enjoyed as a kid, even if they are intended for a younger demographic, all while telling us why the current iterations of these same shows aren't as good.
Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. Thanks for watching. Adult Moshi Fan 87 out.